Welcome back to Law and Crime Trial Network. I'm Stacey Delicat, and thanks so much for being with us this afternoon. It is a busy day as we monitor high-profile trials about to get underway across the country. So there you have it, some of Dr. Baden's findings, conducting his own independent investigation here, looking at the injuries Jeffrey Epstein sustained. I do just want to say that the New York City medical examiner responded to Dr. Baden's findings, saying she stands by her determination and cause and manner of death in the case suicide. She says fractures of the hyoid bone and the cartilage, which we just heard Dr. Baden talking about, can be seen in suicides and homicides. But where does this all leave us now? I want to bring in the two guests I have joining me this afternoon. Gabriela Teresa Gonzalez is a criminal defense attorney, and Byron Browne is a trial attorney, both joining me live via Skype. First of all, Gabriela, let me start with you. This news coming out is surprising this morning to a lot of people. Does it change much in this case?
Yeah, it's definitely going to have a factor in this. You know, this went from being an apparent suicide accomplishment to a potential murder. And as Dr. Baden mentioned or described, the injuries that he incurred are not consistent with a suicide. There was double or even triple the amount of pressure required in order to cause death. Therefore, there must have been a murder. So this is definitely going to change some things.
I mean, Byron, what do you expect? I mean, we haven't heard back from the U.S. attorney on this. I mean, we assume that law enforcement was looking into the possibility that perhaps someone else was involved, despite this being ruled a suicide. But what happens now, just based on these findings? Is that enough to really intensify any sort of investigation into a possible homicide?
I don't think it's going to amount to really anything as far as reopening the investigation and looking into possible people who murdered him. I don't think Browne is an independent investigator. I mean, he was hired by Epstein's brother, who obviously has an angle. He is hoping that he's able to point towards this prison as being negligent, I'm assuming for a civil suit that's coming forward. So I think all of this is going to amount to a civil suit on behalf of Epstein's family, and we're not going to see anything more as far as criminal prosecution goes as it relates to a possible murder.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly that's the point of view of a lot of people. I want to listen to a little bit more of what Dr. Baden said now. I mean, there were a lot of questions about this suicide to begin with, because we know that Epstein had been placed on suicide watch after a previous failed attempt. So was he possibly able to kill himself? Let me ask you, Gabriela, do you agree with Byron? I mean, we know Dr. Baden's hired by Epstein's family, that this is sort of to lay the groundwork for a civil trial against the Metropolitan Correction Center and the federal system as well as the city.
There's definitely positions to file suit against the prison. Let me tell you, I don't think that this was necessarily a setup. The federal prison system has been under budgeted for years. There are guards there that are consistently working double shifts. They're very low maintained, very low staffed. I'm not surprised that somebody was able to sneak in and possibly commit a murder in this case, considering the way that the federal prison systems have been debudgeted to this point.
I mean, I guess one of the allegations was there's so many high-profile people that stand to be sort of tarnished and implicated themselves in the Epstein case, that somehow some arrangement was made, and this is part of a conspiracy theory that's been out there from the very beginning, to kill Jeffrey Epstein. But we just don't know, because even Dr. Baden himself said it could be consistent with homicide, it could be consistent with suicide. Byron, ultimately, does this change the investigation into Epstein's alleged crimes? I mean, does this make any difference? Because we know investigators have vowed to move forward on those charges and to investigate anyone who may have been related to, may have also been involved in sex trafficking and other sex offenses that Epstein was accused of.
I mean, we sure hope not, right? I mean, Epstein needs to be confronted, even though he's passed away, and those victims need to have their day in court. So I don't think it changes anything at all as it relates to the criminal investigation and charges against Epstein.
Well, this is one case that we know we have not heard the last of. I'm sure there will be much more to come as the investigation continues. So both my guests are sticking around. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Kellen Winslow II, as I mentioned, his retrial about to get underway as possibly as soon as this afternoon. We've got a lot to talk about. We'll be right back with that.